Hi guys, happy 2018. Glad to finally do a new video for you guys. I hope everything is working out well. My 2017 wasn't too bad, and I believe that 2018 will be so much better. How's everyone doing? Down out here, our temperature is like below zero in New York City, so forgive me if I still have the sniffles and I sniffle throughout this video. I want to talk to you guys about how to win the housing lottery. Now, I've won several myself, and I understand that some of you are not even aware that we have housing lotteries, much less and then there are those of you who are aware of it, but you have not been successful. Now, just to backtrack, housing lotteries are not just in New York City. Housing lotteries are all over the country. So normally they're given either by the government or by a developer. Trying to stabilize this camera here. Okay. Yeah, so you can find these by going to home buyers fairs. You can find these by looking online, going to government websites, and you can also find these, of course, in newspapers. Now, I've seen that there's not that much information online, and some of the information that I saw was not completely accurate. One of the things that was mentioned was that you had to live within a particular area in order to qualify for some of these housing lotteries. That's not totally true. I'm going to talk about New York and Atlanta. In Atlanta, from what I understand, most of those housing lotteries, you don't actually have to live in that particular district. They only give preference, they may give preference to a city employee, but it's still open to people who do not work in the city, and you don't have to live in the city to apply. So anybody who is from out of state can also apply to their housing lotteries. In New York, there's preference given, but you don't necessarily, again, have to live in that district in order to qualify, because I was in Manhattan, yet I won lotteries in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, as well as Manhattan. So that is not true. It's just that there's a preference for those who live in that particular district. They also have a preference for city veterans and the disabled people also get a preference when it comes to how they choose and how they select people. The other thing that you'll see mentioned is that it'll have a list of what the income requirements are. Now, you can make a little bit less than what the minimum is, but sometimes what you can do is, because I had to do this with one of the housing lotteries that I had applied for, I think it was Mitchellama. They had a certain minimum requirement, and at that time, many years ago, I didn't qualify for the minimum requirement, but I was looking for another job, and the other job one of the jobs that I was looking into did accept me. So what happened was I called up the people who were processing the application, and they said to me, well, what you do, since that other job is going to pay you more money, what you do is you fill out the application stating what it is that you make right now, but you attach a letter to that application saying that you are in the process of getting another job, and they do pay X amount of money. So you can make less, but normally I would say if you make like $10,000 less, you probably should stay away. But if you make a few $1,000s less, then you should apply. You should still apply and attach that letter. Or better yet, call the people who are actually going over the application to make sure that that is the correct process that they want you to take. Because what I find is that some buildings have different requirements than other buildings. So you want to always double check that. And just so that you know, here in New York and also in Atlanta, the housing lotteries are for apartments, condos, co-ops, and houses. And I'm pretty sure that in other parts of the United States, it's pretty much the same thing. The other thing you want to do is you want to be careful when you're filling out the application. You want to make sure everything is filled out and not just some things, that nothing is left out in your application, because that will disqualify you from the program. You have to understand this. New York City has some statistics say 6 million, others say 33 million. So you're competing against, let's say you're competing against all of those people, plus you're competing against other people outside of the city who want to move back into the city and who are also looking for affordable apartments. So you want to be careful of how you fill out your application. The other thing to be mindful of is I would not put my job email address, because again, if you change jobs and they email you, the email is going to your old job and not your current job. And if you don't respond to them within a specific amount of time, they'll also disqualify you from the program. Same thing with your phone number. So if you change phone numbers, call them on the phone and say, hey, my phone number has changed. Please update my file or my records with this new phone number. And when it comes to email, use your personal email and check your personal email, because if they can't contact you, they automatically eliminate you from the whole housing lottery process, and it goes down to the next person. The other thing that I wanted to say is this. When you do the housing lottery, it takes 2 to 10 months before they actually approve of you. Okay? So it's not something that you're going to get right away. Then after you have been accepted and approved of, it takes 3 to 5 years before you actually are able to move into the apartment. And sometimes it can take longer, especially if it's a new project, because sometimes the city inspector will fail them. They don't get the certificate of occupancy that they need, and you could be left stranded. So what you do is, with your old landlord, ask them when the lease expires, if you can rent month to month, as opposed to them giving you another year lease. That'll save you a lot of money in the long run. Another thing you should do, because this is what happened to me. This last lottery that I won, that I'm in, at first they rejected me because they had some other company run a credit check on me, and it showed that I owned property that I did not own. So what happened was, I had saved the credit check from other companies that had ran credit checks on me, and I presented it to them and said, look, there's something wrong with how you guys are processing people's credit reports. And I kept on them. I kept producing the paperwork they needed, and then they eventually let me back into the program. So sometimes you need to ask them, if you are rejected, why, and don't accept it if you know that they are wrong. If you know that they are wrong, go back and stand up for yourself. You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to be mean, because, they can misplace your file just for that. What you want to do is, kindly say, hey, the information is wrong, and present the proof, and the burden of proof is on you. Plus, the credit company, the company that performs the credit check, especially after you proven yourself, they have to actually then go through your records and verify everything, which is what they did, and they saw that they made a mistake. So I actually eventually moved in and got it. So that's one thing that's good. Another thing that I noticed, which is really great, now this last housing lottery that I won, It was 20 years ago. So now I've understand that they've updated it where you can, hi Tanza, where you can actually put your profile, upload your driver's license, upload your W-2 forms, and all of your personal information. You can upload it into a site called Housing Connect. And once it's in Housing Connect, it saves it as a profile, and you can keep sending it to the different projects that are coming up. Hi, Wanda. So, for example, we have something, we have Nehemiah Homes, we have Partnership Homes, we have Mitchellama Apartments and Mitchellama Co-ops. Now, even though they're all in the same program, there's like different developments in there. Oh, you want to win a house? You got to apply. I'll put the link after the video is done. So what it is though, all right, let's say you take Mitchellama. You have Franklin Plaza, which is over on the east side. And then you have Riverside, which is in Roosevelt Island. You can't just apply once and think you're going to be applying to both buildings. You have to apply to each building separately. Yes, that does also apply to Atlanta. You have to apply to each building separately. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to put my application in to the housing lottery and it's going to be for all of the housing lotteries in my whole city. No, it's not. You have to apply for each and every single one of them. But you only apply once. If they find that you applied twice to the same building, house, co-op, whatever, that'll disqualify you. So you don't want to do that. So hopefully the information that I shared and the links, that I'm going to put in will help you guys in finding property that's affordable, because all of these are affordable homes. They all come with a 10-year tax abatement. They all come with, well, the Nehemiah Homes and the Partnership for Homes come with a grant. And the way that works is you have to live in the building 10 to 25 years, but I believe, being that I did this a long time ago, it was 25, but for the newer buildings, it's 10. You have to live in the building for that long. Make it your primary residence. And then after that, you can do whatever it is that you want. If you move before that time, you have to pay that grant money back to them. So you have to be careful. Yes, this also applies to new buildings. It also applies to renovated, old abandoned buildings. And it applies to older buildings. One thing with Atlanta that I noticed, and it's a little sad, you guys have a lot of buildings that are abandoned, a lot of housing developments that are abandoned, and yet the city is not, unfortunately, they're not going to take over from what is there and rehabilitate those, because the federal government is not giving any city any more money for affordable housing. So you pretty much have to fill out and deal with whatever it is that they present right now. There is a severe shortage going around across the country, not just New York, not just Atlanta, but I found out Minnesota and DC also, because the original money to build comes from the federal government, and then it's dispersed throughout all of the cities and states in the United States. I can even put some links to some neighborhoods in Atlanta that are abandoned, and the houses are gorgeous. Some of them even have jacuzzi in them, but they say that they're gonna probably stay the way they are, just abandoned. And the other issue too is the trend in real estate, because most of the people who are actually buying property are people my age who are in their 40s, 50s, and what have you. A lot of these millennials, they're afraid to buy property because of what happened to their parents. They don't seem to understand that it had to do with the fact that their parents took on adjustable mortgages and they dealt with some shady people who tricked them. And then when the adjustable mortgage jumped up to a very high rate, that's what squeezed a lot of people out. Yeah, it's possible that they are waiting for investors to buy and renovate, but the city is not taking that responsibility on for themselves. Like in New York, I would say the city pretty much took on the responsibility to renovate a lot of abandoned property here, but I don't really see that going on in Atlanta as actively in Atlanta. Even the REITs that are buying up a whole lot of stuff, they're buying property that's already been lived in. They're not buying stuff that has been abandoned by a developer that got cheated out by a private lender. And one area that I know that a lot of REITs have been buying up is Riverdale, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta near the airport, Jackson Airport there. It's about, 10, 15 minutes outside of the airport area. When you go to the tax lien, when you go to the courthouse to try to buy the tax liens, a lot of times you're outbidded. But that's another video, Tanza. I'll get to that later. Let me see if I left anything out. Yeah, that's Clayton County. They're coming up. I think that one of the reasons why so many people are going there is because MARTA is trying to expand their train station out there. There's several train stops that they're planning to do. Riverdale is one. Jonesboro is the other one, and Morrow, that's the other place where they're planning on having a train station stop, because that's where the university is, and Jonesboro is where the courthouses are. Riverdale, I'm not really too sure exactly where they want it, but they say they want it there. So there you go. All right. I can't think of, you know what? Since I can't think of whatever else, I'll just put that in the comment section later, whatever it is that I forgot. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the year. I hope it got off on a good start. Welcome to 2018, and I'll see you guys. I'm gonna try and see if I could do another video after this one, because being that these apartments, condos, and houses that I was talking about in this video is a lot more expensive than the ones that I've spoken about previously, I want to give some tips, some money-saving tips. Oh, no, you didn't make me lose my train of thought. I have not, I need to take better care of myself. There's something called ginkgo biloba, whatever it is, that helps with the memory, and I probably need to start taking some of those. All right. Plus, there's still a little, even though I've been practicing, there's still a little nervousness, so that's probably what that is. But don't worry, I need that interaction. Thanks for participating, and thanks for helping me. Bye.